Hey everyone, welcome to day 2 of our Shelly Sew-a-long. Today we're going to be working on the optional bodice flutter as well as putting together our front bodice pieces. Our first step is going to be putting in gathering stitches along the top straight edge of both of our ruffle pieces. So I'm going to do 2 rows. I'll do one at 1/4 inch away from the straight raw edge and then one at 5/8 of an inch. And we'll do that with both ruffle pieces. Before we baste our ruffle piece to the bodice pieces, you do have the option of finishing the raw edges of your bodice pieces. I didn't worry about doing that since nobody's going to see them, but you do have the option of finishing those if you would like. Once you've put in your gathering stitches, we're going to pin the straight edge of the ruffle to the bottom edge of the bodice with right sides together. So make sure you place the curved edge 1/2 inch away from the front edge, and then we'll match the other side to the side seam of the bodice. So I'm going to put a clip on one side, and then I started with a clip on the other side, but it really didn't let me pull my gathering stitches, so I switched to a pin. So I would recommend putting a pin on whatever side you're going to pull from, and that will let you pull those gathering stitches. Once you have your pins and or clips in place, you're just going to gather that ruffle to fit. I went ahead and basted my ruffle piece on to my bodice, And then I also did a narrow zigzag stitch. So I used a width of 0.5 and a length of 2, just to make sure my ruffle was secure, and because I know swim can be really slippery and can shift on us when we're trying to sew. Next, take your lining piece, and remember this floral is serving as my lining, and we'll place that on top of our main bodice piece with right sides together. And we're just going to go ahead and baste those two pieces together with the ruffle sandwiched in the middle. Before I go any further with the bodice pieces, I'm going to go back and attach my ruffle to the other side of my bodice piece. Again, after you've pinned or clipped, we're just going to gather the ruffle to fit that bodice piece. After you've basted, if you open up your bodice, it should look like this with the ruffle sandwiched in the middle here. Our next step is going to be to attach our elastic. So make sure that the wrong side of your main fabric is facing up, and that's the side that we're going to attach the elastic to. So first, place your elastic 1/2 inch away from that front center of bodice and go ahead and pin that in place. And then you'll match it to the side seam on the opposite side of the bodice pieces, and then just stretch slightly to fit. Be sure that when you attach the elastic, you use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you can use a zigzag stitch, a stretch stitch, or a serger to attach. Just a couple notes that if you're using your serger, make sure you don't cut any elastic off. And then if you're using a stretch stitch or a zigzag stitch, make sure that the stitching doesn't go all the way across the elastic. So for my elastic, I'm using a zigzag stitch, and I opted for a wide zigzag stitch with a width of 3.5 and a length of 3. This step is optional. I'm just going to understitch the elastic using that narrow zigzag stitch of 0.5 width and 2 for length. And I'm just going to get as close to the seam as I can. And I'll do that for both sides. If you prefer, you could also top stitch, but I decided just to do the understitching. Once you've finished attaching your elastic, and then if you choose to do so, understitching or top stitching, we're going to just baste the remaining open edges of our bodice pieces. You can see I have my main and then my floral, which is serving as my lining, and they are both wrong sides together. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to baste all of the open edges together. Now, if you notice that your main fabric is pulling a bit to the wrong side or to the lining side a little bit, that is correct. So don't panic, you have done everything the way you're supposed to. Once you've finished basting your front bodice pieces, you are all set with day 2. We'll set those to the side and then we'll see you back tomorrow for day 3. See you then.